congregation, the illustrious and sagacious Dr. Devashish Chatterjee, Director of the Indian Institute of Management, Kozhikode, and eminent architect of modern leadership, thought, and practice. Professor Chatterjee is a globally celebrated authority whose sterling contributions to leadership education have inspired minds across continents. With nearly 3 decades of academic and executive teaching at revered institutions, including Harvard University's Kennedy School of Government and the Indian Institutes of Management at Calcutta, Lucknow, and Kozhikode, his journey has exemplified intellectual depth, creativity, and dedication. His scholarship was further distinguished by the honor of being awarded the prestigious Fulbright Fellowship twice for both pre-doctoral and postdoctoral work. A visionary in the realm of organizational behavior and Asian models of leadership, Dr. Chatterjee has guided and trained a remarkable cadre of leaders. He has shaped the minds of over 100,000 managers globally in Fortune-level corporations and has mentored more than 50,000 school principals and teachers, fostering leadership across educational and corporate ecosystems. He has also served as a trusted leadership coach to political figures and CEOs of major Indian organizations and held the role of dean at an international business school in Singapore. An erudite author and thought leader, Dr. Chatterjee's writings continue to influence leaders worldwide. His latest offering, 1 Minute Wisdom, Transformative Coaching for Life, Learning and Leadership, presents profound insights in bite-sized form, inspiring individuals to lead with prudence, purpose, and presence. Among his numerous celebrated titles are Invincible Arjun, Leadership Chronicles, and Timeless Leadership, each reflecting his unique ability to artfully intertwine philosophical wisdom with modern organizational praxis. His philosophy resonates powerfully in his timeless observation that the original voice of life is silence. All other noises of the world are mere echoes. Under his visionary stewardship, IIM Kozhikode has risen to exceptional global prominence, consistently ranking among India's top management institutions and earning coveted international accreditations. His leadership legacy extends beyond institutional transformation to nurturing a generation of ethical, visionary, and resilient leaders. It is with profound respect and great anticipation that we invite Professor Chatterjee to address this August gathering on inspiring the next generation to dream, do, and deliver. I request the Honorable Vice Chancellor of Goenka University, Dr. Dinesh Shenoy, to present a token of appreciation to Professor Chatterjee. Professor Chatterjee, may we invite you on the stage, please. Dr. Shenoy, we would be grateful if you could lend your wisdom and presence as the moderator for this session. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in warmly welcoming Dr. Devashish Chatterjee, a true architect of transformative leadership and a guiding light.
of the most difficult elements in the leader's decision-making process is listening character. Imagine you're trying to get inside the stadium and 50,000 people are bustling. You find that creating thing, you conventional thought that you can't handle them. But somehow you manage to volume the crowd, the million crowd, and you find your own designated seat right there. What do you do?
Might be.
In simple language, clarity is lesser thoughts per minute than you have. Can you hear us?
Very clear.
That's a max sound that he says it can hear. And you will those two problem with the laptop that you might need to talk. You become like an algebra. When asked what is he seeing there, he said, I see the eye of the bird. But if he was a conventional archer, there would be many thoughts in his head. He drills, what's behind there, who else is shooting, who is standing there, what's in the background. But all he does is he only thinks of the eye of the bird. When he's asked, what do you see? Arjuna says, I see the eye of the bird. Not even the bird, just the eye of the bird. Only one thought. In the clutter of thoughts and emotions, and that one thought takes Arjuna home. He hits the target. Because you move to a place called awareness behind the thought structure. And this awareness is what creates great decisions. Gandhi is traveling by a train, one of the students falls down in the railway track. Train has begun to move. One who is there and one who is down. As the train moves away from the one who Gandhi takes the other of the pair and throws it on the track. But if somebody asks him, it's not too long, look, that one who is of no value to the beggar who will find it, one who is of no value to me will see it. So I told him, imagine you're trying to get inside the stadium when 50,000 people are jostling. You find their place and you think, through your conventional thought, that you can't find your own seat there. But somehow you negotiate, you navigate to the crowd, to the million crowd, and you find your own designated seat right there. What did you do? You achieve clarity in the clutter of things. In simple language, clarity is lesser thoughts per minute than you had before. You achieve this clarity. The number of thoughts you have per minute, let's say you have 200 thoughts a minute, and reduce those 200 thoughts to 5 thoughts, and finally one thought, you become like an Arjuna. When asked, what is he seeing there? He says, I see the eye of the bird. Now, if he was a conventional archer, there would be many thoughts in his head. Can I shoot? What is behind there? Who else is shooting? Who is standing there? What's in the background? But all he does is he only thinks of the eye of the bird. When he's asked, what do you see? Arjuna says, I see the eye of the bird. Not even the bird, just the eye of the bird. Only one thought. In the clutter of thoughts and emotions, and that one thought takes Arjuna home. He hits the target. So you go to a place called awareness behind the thought structure. And this awareness is what creates great decisions. Gandhi is traveling by a train, one of his shoes falls down on the railway track. The train has begun to move. One shoe is there and one shoe is in Gandhi. As the train moves away from that one shoe, Gandhi takes the other of the pair and throws it on the ground. And somebody asks him, what did you do, Babu? He said, look, that one shoe is of no value to the beggar who will find it, one shoe is of no value to me with me. So I threw it so that it adds value to the person who finds the pair. At that moment, conventionally, you and I would start thinking, oh, what happened to my shoe? How can I find it? Can I pull that chair? Can I call somebody? But those thoughts are all disconnected, have no meaning, no coherence. But Gandhi does a simple action. He takes the other of the pair and throws it on the pair. That is clarity. That is clarity beyond convention. Be able to decide, be able to increase the decision space in the clutter of thoughts, competing thoughts, requires clarity, and Gandhi demonstrates that he won as a leader because he was clear. Alright?
Okay, great. So I'm sorry for this is a nation of last minutes, and so you can see everything gets done at the 11th hour, and so is this. This is Goenka. It's a brand by itself, aspires to be the top 10 educational brand of India and indeed in the world. But for a brand to be established as a brand, it has to do a few things consistently. So I was trying to figure out those consistencies that echo in your campus and among the things that you do. And you must do it pretty well to be recognized thus far as a great school. So it's a privilege to be invited. And Bharati was persistent actually. Last 4 years he has been trying to get time sorted about Delhi's weather being what it is. Throws a spanner at every land at this part of the year in particular. So this night I checked it roughly two in the morning because of the delayed flight and fog and all that, and I saw my digital watch had stopped, and so it stopped at about 2:30, and so it struck me that one day my life will stop just like that. It may not be 2:30, it may be some other time, it will stop. And there is a terminal point in his life, there must be a terminal point too. And so if it stops at a given point in time, I have a fundamental question to ask at that point in time, which is where will I be at that moment? And I sent out a questionnaire at 3 in the morning to several of my friends, well-wishers. Can you tell me where will I be when I am no longer physically alive? And I got all kinds of answers. And starting from, a word of God to where God is supposed to be, and the name of the God was also given, and a particular part of this large cosmos that you are part of. So all this is absolutely okay, but I was not really looking for an answer. I was looking for to deepen this question as to why do we do what we do. Why do I want to build this kind of institution that has got this kind of recognition? Why does a mountain climber want to go to the peak in Mount Everest? And so I went back to my research. Two people, Tenzing Norgay and Edmund Hillary, went up there 1940s, top of Mount Everest. And Hillary was asked this question, why did you come here? And surprisingly, unlike many of us who want to build institutions, please put your phone on silent mode because this distraction will keep coming and my narrative will get distracted. If you really want to listen, please put your phone on the airplane on the silent mode. Otherwise, I get disconnected with the audience, right? And so let's look at a very simple thing. What is the simple thing? Edmund Hillary says, I went there at top of Mount Everest just because it was there unconquered. Just because it was there unconquered, I went there. So this is typical human quest. If there's two elephants in the forest somewhere, the elephants will not ask each other, brother, how's the stock market? How are you doing as a school? How are the kids? What should improve our brand? They will not ask because they are driven by their instinct to preserve themselves, right? Preserve their lives, that's their fundamental drive. And rightly so. They have to deal with hostile environment, poachers, but human beings have a little bit of a deprived from all of that, so our minds start functioning in ways that are very strange. We ask curious questions, and that curiosity, the architecture for curiosity is the beginning of school system. So now curiosity cannot flow freely. So curiosity has to be designed in a particular way. So India's Gurukul system wanted to create the architecture in a natural environment for curiosity to flourish. And you can see that architecture. We saw a little video of my school in Goenka, which I had the privilege of being a servant of, and I recognize that curiosity is what drives people to the other frontier. And then the second question that Hillary was asked is, so when you climb Mount Everest and reach the top, what it is that you discover? He said, I discovered that it is not the mountain we conquered, but ourselves. Our own fear, our own reputation. And if you're a physicist, which Hillary wasn't, you realize that the peak is does not even exist. It's a hypothetical conceptual peak. It does not exist in reality. There's no depth, no height, no dimension. So, am I going to go and fight, give my life for a concept? Well, I wouldn't do that. So there's something real here. Where is the peak? The peak wasn't there in the first place. For Edmund Hillary and Tenzing Norgay, the peak was that they had conquered something within themselves that they would consider as the peak experience. But there's a third man who was behind this climbing. His name was Colonel Hunt. He was choreographing this entire journey, entire cohort. So he was asked this question: you could have easily been there, the first man on Everest, or at least the third person if you won the bronze medal. Why did you not complete the climb? He said, my job was to make this team successful, to make this cohort successful. For the first time, a human being has conquered Mount Everest. So that was my peak. The team succeeds. Look at this. What does that really mean? It simply means that all human motivations are defined by two things. One is what is called the life of the mind, and the other is what is real life. What is the life of the mind? The clock stops and the mind says, oh, I have reached my terminal point, but life goes on. Just because the clock stops for you doesn't mean it will stop for everybody else. So you can't define life between your birth and death. That's why we are an institution, that's why we grow trees, that's why we have children. Right? So you have to understand the fundamental orienting drive behind setting up a school and why we are here. Why are we in this system? Why are we climbing Mount Everest? If that meaning is lost, then everything is lost. So while you go there, you will realize going to Everest, the mortality rate is roughly 4%, which means 40 out of 1,000 people die while trying to conquer Everest, even today. The number goes up to 250 if you talk about K2, right? So why people still go there, even if they know they're going to die? Because there's something within us that refuses to be killed. Something within us that refuses to believe that we will no longer be around when we are terminally not there. That is the driver for great institutions. That is the driver. If you look at any of the top schools of the world, Harvard, MIT, LSE, you talk about anywhere in the world, NTU in the US, these schools have been there for a long time. See, Harvard, MIT have been there for a long time because they are the alumni that is driving these institutions. What do the alumni do? They make sure that the place from where they graduated, there's a perpetuation of that legacy. So universities outlive businesses 6:1 times. How many businesses have survived 500 years? Can you ever ask that question? What makes institutions so much more powerful than any other business in the world? Because the drive for the timeless, drive for life beyond my life. If that is not there, if you're here only for entertainment, then there is no point calling somebody like me in this place. You can obviously get engaged in how to run a school. There's plenty of wisdom there. You can model this. But if the fundamentals are not clear, then there is no rationale for running an institution. So if you have an ROI, return on investment, which is what drives a lot of people to be in the education space, there's nothing wrong in it. But ROI has two definitions. One is return on investment. The second is the way I run my school, it's called return on India. And when you have return on India, then you realize that your work will never be over. So the Indian Institute of Management represents, wrongly or rightly, an elite system where without a PhD you can't even, be a gatekeeper. That kind of a legacy people think. So I earned my PhD and I went back to my village where nobody ever graduated. And somebody asked me, an elderly gentleman, I call him uncle, he says, so what are you doing these days? I said, I just got a PhD. What is PhD? I said, Doctor of Philosophy. He says, I have heard of all kinds of diseases, but I haven't heard of a disease of philosophy. What kind of disease is that? I said, it's an incurable, disease we are all born with. Everybody is a philosopher, trust me. You may think I have no philosophy, I am a pragmatic business guy. Your philosophy is make money. That's it. I heard a principal, I said, what is your philosophy? He said, thorough in everything I do. Without a fear, Dalai Lama has a philosophy. The guy who is listening to his discourse and looking at his pocket is also has a philosophy. He's a big pocket. He's looking at Dalai Lama's pocket. How to pick it. So philosophy does not necessarily mean empty speculation. It means a way, a lens through which you view life. The mental lens through which you view life is a philosophical orientation in life. But the lens is not enough. You have to delve deep into life to understand how great institutions become great and why others don't. So let's look at this next model, which is fundamentally about what leaders really do. And I've used the word 4.01, don't get, I'm going to explain to you what 4.0 means. The basis of leadership is the capacity of the leader to change the mindset, the framework of another person. It's no longer, you're not forcing somebody on a bonded level, you're not dealing with physical matter anymore. It's the ability to persuade somebody to move from here to there. Now, how do you do that? How do you persuade an unwilling person to move from here to there? For instance, if I ask any one of you, please stand in this cold of Delhi with nothing but a t-shirt on for about 5 hours in the morning. You say, why the hell would I do that? I don't owe you anything for me to go through all of that. I said, sir, the President of India is asking me to scout for the next Indian ambassador to Scandinavia, and you are one of the candidates. So this is just a test of your endurance. Sir, why 5 hours? 5 days of Modi and my. So how do you change the mindset of the person? You don't change mindsets. You see, the point is everybody wants to change, but nobody likes to be changed. So how do you sell pain in a way that pain does not appear like a pain? Leadership is the business of selling pain. And when the pain appears like a gain, then the pain becomes more enduring. So when I inherited Goenka 2009, it was ranked 34 in the country. And people used to say that, you cannot, this place called Punnamagalam, 2 barren hills, no business around, no air connectivity. My predecessor was director, had to go via Dubai to attend a meeting in Delhi. There was no aircraft, right? And so when I came from Singapore and I looked at these 2 hills and I said, this is where Indian thought will be globalized. And people said I must be very crazy. So they asked me, why do I think Indian thought can be globalized from 2 barren hills? I said, look, India is 1.4 billion people, 140, not 1.4 billion. I mean, it can be much more. The fact is that look at the enormity of the population, 1/6 of the world, and out of the 1/6, how many people take the CAT exam to get into an IIM? So they started by computing. You see, this year we started an undergrad program, 80,000 expressions of interest, 4,000 shortlisted, 112 is the offer we made. I said 1:1,000 is the entry ratio. This is the filtered talent of India, best of the best of 1/6 of humanity, sitting on top of a hill. If I cannot globalize Indian thought, who the hell can globalize Indian thought? And so you can see the enormity of what is available to you. Already, by virtue of being just born, your biggest break was you were born with this university. This ability to search for something beyond your mental model. So, university systems, school systems run on the life of the mind. What is the life of the mind? Life of the mind is a code through which you see the world. It's a lens, it's an instrument. But life itself does not follow necessarily all mental models. So mental models have to shift towards a coherent, convergent way of doing things in the school system. That's what is called. The systems world of the school and the human world of the school are 2 different dimensions. But they must interact. And you must know as a custodian of institutional leadership how they interact, how they have to engage each other. If they don't, You can run a cookie cutter school, McDonald's model, but you cannot build an institution. There's a difference between building a business and building an institution. You may build a very successful business with education. The ROI is huge, but you will not be able to build an institution. That's the difference between great institutions and not so great ones. Is that clear?
Yes.
Okay. And so, mindset change is critical. How do you change mindset? What is the mindset? You see, mindset is just a bunch of words. The moment they say all politicians are, immediately something is cooking in your head. One word, right? Don't spell it out because there must be a politician here. Poor fellow must be a real honest person, right? And so mindset is fundamentally made up of words that we repeat constantly within our heads, like a mantra. Words create stories, stories create narratives, narratives create structures of thought, structural thought creates organization, and then we have an institution with a mission statement. But it all starts with mindset. But before mindset, words. So words make reality, and you have to be very conscious about words you use in institutional space. I'm in Calcutta, city of processions, poetry and pain, and you go there and there's a driver that is my taxi driver driving recklessly, violating all traffic laws. And I asked him, sir, why don't you go slightly slow? He said, no sir, I am a racist. You're a racist? I like racing cars. I said, "Oh." After that he turns towards me and he says, how about you sir, what is your profession? I said, I am a fascist. What is fascist? I drive faculty, to do their work. And who is the person sitting next to you? So one of my faculty actually laughing away. I said, he is a Marxist, he gives Marx and Marx. The guy was really happy. He sits well with Calcutta ethos, right? And so you can be a racist, fascist, Marxist, you create a complete, institutional story for him. That is the story that is happening. That is the organization. So you must allow people to create their own narratives within, some narratives within narratives. Because you have 100 odd schools. Each one is a franchise school, great model. But they must have a little uniqueness about them. The organic part of it, where the human world peeps out of the systems world. To make that happen, even McDonald's has to accommodate vegetarian food. Right? The true blue McDonald's has to adapt to multiple realities, multiple geographies. So you have to see that your story is also cut out. And so look at I'm going to stop, then take a few questions, and then if time permits, we'll move a little bit. So look at what happens to most people who are successful in the administration world. Most of you are. That's why you are here. That's why you've been chosen as a principal. You're running a school. There's no doubt about your success as your experience as an administrator. But the problem is, the more experience you have, the more you are successful, the less reflection you do. Every organization has a tendency or a bias to look towards the past. So my model is essentially to see how I can coach myself and individuals around me in the institutional space. To see that without that reflection, without the ability to see what you've done in the course of a day, there is no way how you can change your direction when change must be accommodated. This is what happens when you constantly, if you can try out a little something here. Can you name those who have done this exercise? I can see some principals who have suffered my classes, so you can keep quiet. But some of them, can you name a British tree starting with O, three-letter word? Oh, that's pretty easy. Little more difficult. When a frog cries out, what is that word? That's great. Open crow. A funny story starting with J. Joe. Oh, Joe. A global beverage starting with C. The white of an egg. Oh, fantastic. White of an egg is yo. Yo, all of a sudden. You can see this is what the systemic bias towards the past. Mindlessness that takes. So if you reflected on this, why I did what I did, somebody successfully is propping up my sense of knowledge. I know, I'm experienced now in cracking the code of OKE. Right? And everything must conform to OKE. This is the problem of building a school like building hamburger or soda. There is a difference. Otherwise, you could have easily built school like hamburgers and sodas. You can build a systems world like that, but you cannot build a human world. Human world essentially is shrouded in irrationality. It asks fundamental questions that the machine cannot ask. This is something that separates the algorithmic world from the world of the human. And you can see we are entering the algorithmic world. I'm going to share some notes with you on this. So what do we do? In fact, it's not enough to say that, well, I have a tendency, I have a bias towards the past. How do I remove that bias? I'll tell you of a simple exercise I practice. So that much I can share with you. Before I go to bed tonight, I'm going to look at the entire day in the reverse video mode. Suppose I get up from bed at 8 in the morning. From 10 o'clock at night when I go to sleep until 8 in the morning, I looked at my entire day on a 1 hour basis. And I realized that a lot of things happened in the day I never thought about. A lot of things I thought about, did not think about actually happened. Stuff that I should not have said, I ended up saying. Stuff I had to say, I did not. Things I thought I would get done, I did not get done. Things I did, it was not on my agenda. Now all that data is available to within 10 hours and 12 hours. If you collect that data every day and you start improving on your database, you will see you will arrive miles ahead of others in terms of making those changes in your life. Very pragmatic exercise. And I learned it from two very important people. Mother Teresa was one, Tendulkar was another, two different people, in two different fields of reference altogether. And so it is possible then you improve your reflective capacity in the course of a day. And if you can allow this discipline to percolate out of your school system, please take stock, if not per day, in the week. What did the week look like? What could have been done better in the week? What was new in the week? What changed in the week? Right? I'll take you through a few more dimensions. I'll take you through the evolution of leadership, how leadership has changed over the years. We're talking about leadership has changed. You can see in the evolutionary curve, we moved from the 1.0 to the 4.0 world. 1.0 world was largely muscular, agrarian world, where might was right, where women had no chance. So many women leading institutions, it would be unthinkable in 1.0 world. 2.0 was industrial revolution, where machines took over the muscles, and all the colonial powers of England, France, Germany, Spain, everybody dominated the world from Europe because of those machines. And then came in the 1980s, the information revolution, the internet goes up, Berlin Wall comes down, and all of a sudden information structures become more powerful than muscles and machines. If you wanted a shoe factory, you couldn't be a Reebok or a Nike, you had to have the design, the information structure. You may not own a single shoe factory, yet you'll be the shoe king of the world because of the information structure. And then came the 4.0 world where information was dirt cheap. This was what is called the birth of cognitive revolution, where for the first time, those colonized powers with huge populations got a chance to look into things. So the British or the Americans gave us the washing machine and Punjabis used it to churn lassi because of the cognitive revolution. I can use your database in a way that suits me. I use my creative instinct to do things in a way that you may not have taught me to do. But I learned it because my cognitive flexibility, the more you have cognitive flexibility, the more successful you are likely to be in the generation. So you are going to teach in the school stream how kids have to be cognitively flexible. A mother is taking a kid for admission to a kindergarten school in Calcutta. And on the metro ride, she's asking this kid, tell me what is the color of an apple? The kid says, white. The mother says, no, it is red. Mrs. Sen would be very upset if you say. Everybody knows it is red. Say it is red. No, it is white. Tell me why is it white? If you cut the apple, it is not white, says the kid. He sees only the white part of the apple every day. And both the mother and the kid are caught. They are stuck. Where are they stuck? In a cognitive loop of experience, past experience. Apple is neither white nor red. Apple is not a noun, it is a verb. Apple is appling. It is green, it is red, it is white, it is brown, it is dark, it dies, and new apples come. So education is taking away, because of the main filters of the mind, they're taking away the essence of life. Do you see what is happening in the digital age? You will see when you get the picture. So in the age of cognitive revolution, the machine and the mind, the machine and life will have to coexist. The question is, this will be a team, but who will be the team leader? That's the question. If you ask me, what's going to happen in the machine world? What's going to happen in the machine world that will force the human mind to readjust its way of training itself? You see, what's going to happen in the machine world will be very different. You see, imagine you talk of generative AI. The question you should ask is who generates? Rather than generative AI, it is a standalone monster. Who generates? It's like saying the tail is wagging the dog. The tail doesn't wag the dog. Dog wags the tail. It is the carbon brain that you have evolved over trillions, billions of years into the mystery. The carbon brain that is producing the silicon brain. So silicon brain is outsourced aspect of carbon brain. And the silicon brain is produced to do something that the carbon brain finds tedious, boring, impossible to do. So don't compete with the silicon brain. You can't compete with ChatGPT. But if you change the rules of the game, ChatGPT will have to now come to conform to what you want it to do. So you must know how to tame ChatGPT, not to get into conflict with it. And that's a very young thing to do. So when my students and my faculty write term papers on ChatGPT, I say, welcome. Please use ChatGPT to any extent you like. But you have to acknowledge that this is ChatGPT. And then I'll ask you to produce 20% more than what ChatGPT put on it. That 20% is what I'm going to evaluate. Is that clear? So what have you done here? You've tamed the machine to serve as a secretary, as a database collector, as a proofreader, as concept provider, and then you sit over there as the director of the orchestra. You say, I orchestrate, I decide. Now that role is what you have to play more and more. You can't compete with the technology. Please don't try those foolish things that people are advising you to do, because one, it is unleashed like a monster. It is unleashed already. That convenience, human mind operates only on one principle, which is the path of least resistance. Water follows the path of least resistance. Wind follows the path of least resistance. Human mind follows the path unless otherwise trained. And that training is not easily available. So you can assume most people will use those devices, and it is nothing right or wrong, just that it performs some function well. So I'm going to last slide, and then I'm going to take those questions. Leadership and cognitive revolution. This is what we are saying. What is this cognitive revolution? Revolution of cognition. We are looking at a cup of tea, and my friend Prakash Iyer says, a cup of tea is a beverage. I can explain leadership only looking at a cup of tea. I said, well, Prakash, that's nice to hear that. So tell me more. So he said, something inside the sachet is more powerful than what is outside. And when the cup is heated, when the things turn hot, leadership flourishes more. And you must know somebody else is pulling your stream. You need two sachets instead of one. Well, this is an applause for the board of the owners who's pulling your stream. Principals are clapping, I can see that. And so sometimes two are needed, a vice principal and a principal, two sachets to go in to make a strong cup of tea. But you must know how to get out of the cup before the tea turns stale. Right? That is Prakash Iyer. So you're not clapping for me, you're clapping for Prakash Iyer. Right? Now here is my turn. So I tell Prakash, your definition of tea and leadership is very old-fashioned. It doesn't serve me today at all. You haven't even understood what tea is. But principals all have already clapped for you. So what can I do? So he says, tell me more. So I said, look, what you call tea is not tea at all. It is sunlight falling on a green leaf, turning it brown. You are drinking sunlight. Every energy comes from there. So this is sunlight. But since you can't drink it directly, you condense it, you put hot heat underneath, and this water, and then you don't like the color so much. So what you do is you put 2 drops of white fluid, black cow eating green grass is produced. Without knowing why it is called milk, you put 2 drops. and it turns beautiful brown, lighter brown. But you don't like the taste. So you dig up the earth and with a pump lift the sap of the earth with a pump called sugar cane. And the crystallized form of that sap is called a sugar cube. You put one inside and you stir with a spoon. And you know what you're doing there? When I was starting my cup of tea with the spoon in Boston in a hotel, the guy saw me with my eyes closed, looking at the cup of tea, smelling the smoke. He said, "Sir, what are you doing?" I said, I'm a tea devotee, I'm praying before I go." Tea devotee? I said, "Look, you don't understand what I told Prakash Raya." He said, "Sir, who's Prakash Raya?" I said, "Don't worry." I told Prakash Raya, "Look, what you're stirring inside the cup is a cosmic conspiracy. Air, water, fire, earth. Every damn element of the earth is there. You're studying the cosmic conspiracy inside a cup with a spoon. It's cosmos inside a cup. Do you see this? But I'm a business professor, so I have to give you a business case for it. They say, look, all of us have 5,000 test buds, and we respond to the cosmic conspiracy in different ways. Cup of tea. If I'm from Kashmir, I like kawa chai. If I'm from Mumbai, I like cutting chai. If I'm from, somewhere in Calcutta, it will be Darjeeling tea or Assamese tea. It will be down south, it will be Nilgiris, wherever the tea comes from. But my cosmic conspiracy is unique to my orientation of my test buds. So if I want to start an Amazon for tea, I will look at the tendency of those 5,000 test buds to orient themselves to a cup of tea. And I'll give you a personalized kind of tea for a premium price. And you will buy it. Why? Because I brought the conspiracy to your tongues, the tip of your tongue, to your yourself. This is what technology can do today. Trust me. I sit on the regulatory, they have just liberated insurance, every insurance. I told the board, we are still talking about 1 year motor insurance. You have to have 1 hour insurance. People are saying, I drive my car for 1 hour, why the hell should I pay a premium for 1 year? The companies should start it. So everything that can be deconstructed into its constituent elements will be deconstructed. And technology will make sure that whatever you create out of the new combination, if there's a market for it, you will find the market. So education then will be about deconstruction of current reality. Reimagining a reality that will emerge from your imagination, not from somewhere else. And in order to support that, the kind of curricular shifts that you have to that will have to take place will be very dramatic. Will be very dramatic. Now what you're doing, what ChatGPT can do, you will not be paid for that kind of work anymore. Is that clear? So look at a cup of tea whenever you have it and your ideas of how your brain functions and how your function will change. I'll stop for a while, we have spoken for too long. I can continue a little longer, but nevertheless let me take a few questions. Whatever you have. So that's fine, I'm standing up, my brain works better. I had this Kerala cabinet come to me, and I told the Chief Minister, look sir, you should have a stand-up meeting in your cabinet. He said, why? I said, 20% blood circulation hota hai zyada, brain mein, as opposed to sitting down. But more importantly, your cabinet is about 65 years age, average age. They have knee problems. They can't stand for too long. And decision making will be very, very fast, unlike the Union Cabinet, right? So let's go ahead. Let's take some questions and then we will. Just to see where. Yeah, sir. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
That's a fantastic. Thank you, sir.
I have not finished yet. You have not finished.
You've got some more things to go, but one thing that puzzled me was you have talked about saving concepts.
Yeah.
It's very, very important.
Yeah.
I know we've got principals over here, we've got some of the stakeholders of the student who's not here, which is the parent. So obviously, as a principal or as a teacher, our principals and teachers will probably need some suggestions from you as to what those words would be, so that they can keep hammering it into the student and also in the minds of the parents, so that they can change the mindset and achieve whatever the student has to.
Yeah.
Some examples.
See, perennially you will hear this complaint. Children are not listening to their parents anymore. Yes or no?
Yes.
I mean, not that when we were children, We are equally rebellious, but then we had no way. So the point is, why are they not listening? The immediate response in our head will be useless generation. No, this is not useless, this is useless generation. No, it's not useless generation. What are you using there? Are you using their minds and to give sermons and advices based on your collective experience of the past? They are not interested in those sermons. Because they see the world crumbling right in front of their eyes. And they know you are responsible, your consumption patterns, your way of talking to, Al-Baruni who came to India, he went with a report about India. He says Indians talk too much. Now, of course, we don't know that Indians also achieve a lot. But the fact is, we do talk too much. And parenting becomes actually a contest of vocabulary, packaging vocabulary. So, essentially, I have to download something interesting I've learned somewhere in Chicago, and I have to tell my children to, conform to my new worldview. And they look at me as well like a zombie from wherever he has come. What is he talking about? Makes no sense to me. There's a gap between what he has lived and what he's saying. Right? The point is that there's a deep distrust across generations about parental handling of children. Why is coaching so important? This is why I've said that in schools you must introduce, you will not have any choice. The coaching model of leadership. What coaches do differently from teachers? First and foremost, coaches say that I am on your side, as opposed to teachers. There's an invisible barrier between teachers and students. But for coaches, I'm with you. Whereas teachers download their knowledge, coaches upload capability, confidence. Now, from downloading, you start uploading, which means if you ask your kid what he should do, he said, so how was he doing? What do you think about this problem? What is your view? Now you are uploading his ability to communicate to you what is it that he's seeing. That's vastly different from what you are seeing. Because you are seeing through the filter of your experience. He is seeing through the filter that does not exist. Right? Those filters don't exist in you. Now you don't even know that you have those filters. That's the bigger problem. Most principals don't know that they are speaking through those filters. Most leaders don't know they're speaking through the filters. There was this extraordinary political leader. He used to put the whole parliament to sleep when he started to speak. He went to the secretary and said, look, cut down my speech to about 1/3 because by the time 1/3 is over, people have started snoring. So secretary said, sir, I will do so, as you asked me. So secretary did the needful and this gentleman goes and again everybody went to sleep. He said, I told you, he comes to the secretary, I told you to cut it down by 1/3. Why did you not do so? He said, sir, I did so. But you read your speech 3 times. I gave you just 2 copies in case you lose one, but you read all the things without knowing what you've done. See, I would recall my father used to say, you have to do engineering or medicine. Engineering or medicine. He was an engineer. And I said, for God's sake, I will do none of that. I went into medical school and I had to run out of it. Because that was not my... And I told my father one day, why do you speak 100 times the same thing when you know that I am not going to follow what you say? It feels bad to tell this to your father. But this whole syndrome of like father, like son, does not really operate in a world that is changing faster than you can imagine. Today a refrigerator can tell you whether you've stolen more carbohydrate than you should have. Right? Technology is all around you, telling you exactly that you're overeating your rice, that you're not stretching enough, that you're eating junk. And kids see that right in front of you and they don't tell you. But they point towards you that you are living an unhealthy life, which is not appropriate. I'm not bullying one generation, I'm simply saying there's a gap, and that authenticity that is required for us to change, to get over it, is very, 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 very important. And so this is a question that needs to be pondered. You ask a very fundamental question. So, why is it that parenting, teaching, what kind of changes that we should look at? First of all, let's look at reality together, not from a one-sided perspective. Let's look at what's happening from there. And from that end, you will see that they are far more accurate about predicting the world than you and I are, because we're still living with friends. I hope I've covered a little bit of the distance. Yeah, any more questions, please?
Any questions, please? Can we take questions from the audience?
Yes, there's a lady here. Please identify yourself, I should know who you are.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good
This is Richa Mishra from Goenka University, and greetings to all of you. Sir, it is an honor to be your audience, and thank you for talking on this topic. Sir, drawing from your work on leadership, mentorship, and the human side of management, I would like to know what are the do's and don'ts of effective learning or effective leadership you would like to recommend to the school heads shaping the future leader?
Thank you. This is what I would never do, because I have faced enough stuff from the University of unsolicited advices. Right? But since you have solicited it, there is nothing called do's and don'ts. You know, I will say don't do it. Right? That has both do and don't in it. Right? Don't do it, because if you are going to tell them what to do, what not to do, you are robbing them of their originality. You should never tell your subordinate how to do something. Of course, when you are training this person, that may be essential for training. But how to go about doing it, he or she may evolve a different method of doing something. The best way to kill initiative is to tell people don't do this, don't do that. And then find out what is done here, what is not done, what is the reason this is not done. If you tell them up front, they say, okay, people saying don't do it, first thing I will do is to do that. Wherever there is a wall, there is a will, right? So don't say no, just figure out, you know, when a problem comes to my table, let's say 10 problems come to my table, 2,000 people reporting to me, 10 problems come to my table, I will push back 8 of them. Because I know they have the capability of sorting this out. They are coming to me because they either want to please me, say, how's your health? I say, health is fine, but you're not getting your promotion this year. You know, lots will come to you. And so, as a principal, you must know how to push back this decision. Never go into do's and don'ts, because that's a narrative nobody likes. That's a binary nobody likes. It's like a rule book given to you, day one, don't do this, don't. And they will eventually do what you don't ask them to do. My kids, when they went to hostel, the first thing they would break is the rituals, the 10 commandments of the school system. They think of breaking them. So, getting them involved in a conversation, involving their own constitution, which may actually come back to your, is the way to go about it. So, the art of discipline requires that you have to be a disciple of their mind, not the other way around. And so, when you are a disciple of the mind, when you are influenced by them, they will be influenced by you. It works like that. That's always how it works. The circularity of influence. But once you say do and don't, so your question was do's and don'ts of leadership. I was asked this kind of a question when I tried to enter America first time. I was a Brahmin, I had a Fulbright scholarship, I was going to Harvard Kennedy School of Government. So this gentleman there tells me, so what is it that you do? First of all, he saw 10 copies of my book. He said, what is this book about? I said, it's about leadership. What is it that you do in leadership? I said, I write books and I teach. In one sentence, can you tell me what leadership is? So I said, be kind to foreigners who want to come to you. I said, do what thou should do. I mean, what else can I say? And he laughed, and you know, the atmosphere eased so much so, he put a stamp and said, come back to our country once again. I said, I'm just entering your country. So, sorry for not giving you a direct answer, but that's the way I got, unfortunately. Yes.
Next question.
Yes.
So, very good afternoon, sir. This is Anuradha Handa, Principal GD Goenka Sector 48. And I've been fortunate to be one of those 50,000 principals who you've mentored, attended a workshop for 3 days, 2019. And I was about, again, decoding education 4.0. We went back with 4 terms: authenticity, connectivity, productivity, and possibility. Where you asked us to explore those in your teaching, learning, and school. Initially, I felt that how can we do that? but we ended up, relating them to the 4 stages of NEP, with authenticity being, the foundational stage, and connectivity and so on, the productivity, and finally possibility, the secondary years. So I just want to know now, 6 years down the line, those 4 terms, how the education has evolved. So do they still hold, or do we have some more to explore from you?
Thank God. We appreciate you recollecting the history. Yeah, they hold in a much greater measure than ever before. Because I've built a coaching practice all over the world based on these 4 words, starting with Indian cricket team. Please sit down, don't stand for me. So the thing is, how does authenticity connect to, what is authenticity? It is closing the gap between you and your reality. When I coach people and I ask them to chase impossible dreams, I say, you should look at 10x, don't look at x. You don't come to me for looking at x. You should look at 10x. I said, 10x, I haven't even started this business. How can I think of 10x? I said, unless you think of 10x, you will still remain in this problem solving mode. He said, sir, give an example. I said, see, I can't give you an example unless you create. So why is 10x is necessary? Because once you have that, the reality is not about this little thing that you are. See, you have to understand, when you are negotiating with reality, you have to close the distance between you and that reality, and the distance is caused by the mental models that you have. Mental model says, I can only do this. So I asked a lot of people, what is the maximum speed you can work on a bicycle, manual bicycle? The answer comes to close to 50 kilometers. 50 is too much on a bicycle, a lot of people think that. But the world record is 296 kilometers per hour. Now, unless you think of reality of that kind, you will still remain in that little Cooper-Matuku framework. So authenticity is the urge to break out of the mental models. Productivity is minimizing interference to your potential. Connectivity is building resonance at the level of life for people. And possibility is doing what you never thought was possible. Right? Your thought restricted that possibility. So once you get out, we're all frogs in the well, including me. Except that my well may be a little bigger than yours. But the fact is that you have to get out of that mental mode if you want to build an institution bigger than what it is. Is that a warning that I should stop the music that's happening there? All right. Anybody else, please?
Sir,
Yeah. Yeah.
sir, this is Dr. Parachiko, Principal of Goenka University.
I know you very well. You attended my, you don't have to tell me that. I appreciate you coming.
Thank you so much, sir. Sir, this is about Invincible Arjuna.
Yeah.
I would just request you to enlighten us once more with a little information about how we connect with Invincible Arjuna as a school leader.
Thank
Two,
you.
I have the second question is that there is always something which is required and there's something which I desire. So how do we fill that gap?
I appreciate that. You know, very often, I'll take the last question first. Many people have forgotten what they desire is very, very hidden. A lot of people know what they desire, but very few people know how to desire. And we all desire. Human being, human life is about desires. There's nothing wrong. An animal cannot. Desiring is a privilege given to the human species. No other species can desire in the way we can. But the method of actualizing desire, and I have to learn it from a monk, and this is part of my coaching practice, is the method of actualizing your desire is to increase your deserving quotient. Because what you desire is, the result of that is not in your hands anyway. The result of that is not in your hands anyway. So if you look at Arjun's life, it is essentially, he is constantly upgrading his deserving quotient. So what he desires falls at his feet. Even if he fails in what he desires, he falls on truth. Right? If you fail when you desire something much bigger and you don't succeed, people ask me, so 10x when I attempt, if I fail, what happens? You will fall on truth that this is not going to work. And so truth is your liberator, and you will not make the mistake of false success. You know, you made success, you copied somebody's model, and you instantly made some quick money, and you say, oh, I succeeded. But you are bound to fail now, then the things are going to change. But if you fail and you write appraisal of how you failed, you are going to get the truth of it. So improving my deserving quotient means that I may not get a Padma award, but if I deserve it more and more, I become an irresistible force that is aligned to my desire. Do you see this? So if I push back students from the desired mode of thinking to the deserving mode of thinking, immediately the desired success rate increases. Are you with me? Do you see what I'm saying? So you say to your class, unless the class average improves by 1%, the topper will not have that additional marks. The 5 marks will be deleted from the score. Immediately the topper will be now motivated to get everybody up and above. So topper's deserving quotient grows up because he will be a topper not just in the exam but in the way of life. And we have to now create a school structure where these fundamental truths about human nature. When I wrote this book, Arjun, I said I didn't write it for mythological Arjun. I wrote it because there's a market opportunity. Number one name for boys in India was Arjun. Right? I said if every father whose son is Arjun bought a copy of the book, it will be a national bestseller. But when I started writing the book, I realized Arjun was a symbol. That's why Arjun has been around for such a long time in India. He holds the mind space of India in trying to decode what would be one factor that will give you success in multiple dimensions. And that one factor was less thoughts per minute. This is what I coined, but Arjun didn't say that it is one thing. So less thoughts per minute when you are into the realm of action. Your occupation should not suffer from your preoccupation. Right? When you're building a school chain in the K-12 sector, you should not salivate about going to the higher end. Focus on the K-12. Make it count, make it work. Let it be your full-time occupation. Any preoccupation will distract you. There will be more thoughts than necessary. Right? That's why we kill ourselves more. So Arjun syndrome is essentially that. And when I looked at it, I said, oh, it works like precision in relationships, in administration, in all forms of life. This is one core factor. It's a meta-knowledge that needs to be actualized in the school system. Is that clear? Great. But so kind of you to come again despite attending so many. Yes?
So, yeah. So,
okay. The moderator will decide when I close and when it ends. Okay?
So will you take one question or two?
Well, two.
Two. So
Yeah.
that we'll start with you
Good
and
afternoon.
you. Done. Thank you.
good afternoon, sir. Thank you so much for taking more questions. I'm Garima Savlani. I'm the principal of GD Goenka Public School, Bhiwani. So I see a huge gap between you belong to an institution which idealizes leadership and great qualities. But when we talk about schools, there is a huge gap that we see in classroom learning and the real world leadership. I mean, what we study in classrooms as the qualities of a leader are nothing that, not all, but there are very few which come in context with the real world leadership. So what according to you is that gap and how can the schools bridge that gap?
Wonderful. You know, the thing is, even us in the institutions such as I run, the gap between reality and concepts always remains. And when students look at their laptops, they forget there is a world just beyond the laptop, which does not conform to those frameworks and models in the laptop. But it is for them to learn. Because if you cannot bring, suppose you're talking about Mediterranean jungles or landscape, you can't bring a crocodile in the classroom. You can bring a simulator. You can simulate an experience. But fundamentally, learning will be exposing them to say that there is a gap, you have to figure out. So for instance, I had a course in IIM Kozhikode. The course was called Money, M-O-N-E-Y, Money. And I asked 24 faculty to teach this course. One from marketing, one from organization behavior, one from economics, multiple subjects. Each of them had a lens on money. Somebody knew how money is made, how money is distributed, what is the meaning of money for people, all kinds of angles. Now, all of them are looking at that reality called money. Like the Indian elephant for 5 blind men trying to figure out what an elephant is all about. Each of them had their theoretical But when they rub shoulders with others who have an equally potent theory, then they realize that I was seeing only one small part of the picture. So human mind, if it has to have acquaintance with reality, this mind has to be exposed. For instance, if you take your children to an ice cream factory and ask them to note what happened in the ice cream factory, what happens there and what did they observe, you'll be surprised by the nature of their observation. Because they are observing multiple things that even you and I would not observe. So when they come back with these observations, then they say, okay, why did you not see it before? Because I did not focus on it. Then they will know that there is this word called respect. You have to read. Respect means review. Spect comes to spectacles and re means view. So you have to respect everything that you see. As though it is your, you're looking at like a kid looking at a piece of a little insect and he sees this is a piece of life unfolding. I was in Japan and I saw respect at its highest. This is India's Karma Yoga playing out. Kids stand in front of a zoo for hours together, looking at only one bird or one animal with a lot of attention and love. This is important. This quality. Then they will figure out what reality is. Let me give you an example again from the same country. I am in a sushi restaurant in Japan. The chain of restaurant is called Sushi 10. And it has been around for 75 years. It's a branded restaurant. They sit only 10 people. And I am the 10th. They're entering the restaurant with my Indian flag on my jacket. And I go there and I order the menu card and get the menu card. And the menu is so expensive. I feel like coming out of the restaurant. It's far too expensive for my government job. Right? But I can't come out because the Indian national flag is there. I can't insult my country. So I look at the card. I said, okay, I just about enough cash and I think I can pay for it. The 10 courses, the first is the seaweed. A plate of seaweed. I can't eat that. Then comes octopus. I don't eat that. So out of the 10, I ate about 5, 6. And I'm waiting for the bill with my heart beating very fast. Right? And this lady comes and gives me the bill. I look at the bill, it is 1/8 of the actual menu price. So I ask her, is there a calculation mistake? She says, no calculation mistake. Then what happened? Why is it so less? Because I was observing you eating. I billed you for what you enjoyed, not what you ordered. You see what is the gap between reality and menu price? Menu price is the life of the mind. And the actual price is real life. To bridge this gap is the whole journey of education. How to use symbols to connect to reality. How to use a ladder to go to the next. Don't latch onto the ladder, you let go the ladder. When you are on the rooftop, right? That letting go process is a very critical part of learning and teaching, which doesn't happen often. But just keep this in mind. This example will be very important for you. Yes. Last one. Yeah.
Good afternoon to you. This is Meenal Mandri from Goenka International School, Jabalpur, Madhya Pradesh. So I have a question on leadership.
Yeah.
In a school setup, what kind of a leadership is better? Whether it should be a collective leadership or a hierarchical leadership?
Ideal leadership is no leadership. Okay? But please sit down. I got it. So the thing is, hierarchical, you have to understand, there is nothing called pure hierarchy. There is always multi-hierarchies. Within a hierarchy, there will be some more powerful than others. You see? There are hierarchies that get formed on the basis of knowledge, on the basis of influence, on the multiple reasons that hierarchies exist. So what you call hierarchical is not truly hierarchical, it is multi-hierarchical. And when hierarchies are broken, it becomes anarchical, right? Everybody is like, imagine a principal who was the best maths teacher or English teacher and made into a principal all of a sudden. This English teacher tells me that I used to come back to the staff room, after my class, we gossip, share food, pull down the principal's, reputation at few notches by gossiping about him. All this was part of spice of life. But after I became principal, the same teachers who share food and gossip stopped talking to me. Which means when the power comes in, hierarchies get formed between the incumbent and the insurgent. So you become now powerful, you are principal, now my job is to sabotage you. You are the pillar, but I am the caterpillar. I can do everything. I can do this. So which is better? It depends on what kind of context. If the school is being built, you need to have a dictator to put the school in shape. That is as important. But when the school has just about got its structure right and the construction is over, timelines are met, you need to now unleash the democrat within the dictator. You need to push back. So there are multiple. I learned it from a truck driver in Indian city, in Sadarji. A lot of people ask me, a lot of people say things to me. I have learned that you should not hit back and all of that. I said, who told you all of this junk? I don't know why you carry this in your head. So I gave this example. I said, this gentleman was driving his cab and he had a stepney, we call it stepney, a young kid who helps him out sort of things. So there's a truck driver who's trying to overtake his cab and I'm sitting behind and he's not allowing the guy to overtake. So the truck driver utters filthy abuses. And the stepney looks at Sadarji, now trying to retaliate. Verbal backfire. So he says, wait, don't do things, this has to be strategic. So he says, bring the taxi close to the parallel to the truck so that I can see his face and I will now abuse it back. But after I'm done, close the window so I don't hear it again. So it is a well-calibrated exchange of abuses. Leadership is a bit like that. You have to calibrate. See, when I came in, my first term as director was very different from second term. First term, I was absolutely open, as though I know nothing about leadership. I was just one of them. So they said, they opened their hearts. We should do this. This is one professor who does this. He photocopies a few more pages than necessary. Somebody is doing this, somebody is finishing that. So I get all the news as one of them. Because I said, I've never been a director in my life, teach me. So they told me everything. Second time around, I said, I have enough of your teaching now, and listen, please. This is what you should do, this is what you should not do. I go into do and don'ts. This is not acceptable. And then I became a democrat again when the system was set. I said, no, I don't know what to do, you should know better, ask the system. When you set up a system, you have to be a bit of a hands-on, kick-ass kind of character. Sorry for using such expression, but I am pretty liberal in language. So, but then when the thing is set, you must now move, calibrate, nuance it. Like the Sardarji who says, okay, let me not perpetuate this abuse game. Now I have closed my ears to it, I don't want to respond in fire with fire. So it's not as though you are in one strict mode. You have to shift gears, you have to nuance the conversation. You can't tell when a guy who's not drinking your tea properly, you can tell him, get a cup of tea properly. He might respond, he might sip the tea before bringing it to your table. But you have to tell him what to do. After that, you should tell him, can you now get me a cup of tea, please? Call him by the name. So you now know there's a familiarity, he knows his job. You don't have to talk down to him like that. Then you have to nuance your voice. Can you bring me a cup of tea, please? Then you say, oh, he's asked me kindly, use my name. So we will be more gentle. So this is a matter of awareness, how do you nuance your language.
Thank you, Dr. Shastri.
As I finished, you have a next program, right? So we should stop here.
Sure, sir. Yes,
We
sir.
should stop here. I'll stop with a few things.
Sure, sir.
Don't conclude it. I'll just stop with one or two because they need to go. Is that okay with your time?
Absolutely.
You're rapidly saying it, so I can assure you. All right, don't worry. I'll finish it quickly. So this is just this. What is going to change in your construct? You can't. I don't know. I'm sure you're not seeing this. Leadership has to move from. Because a lot of questions were about leadership. It has to move from position to disposition. Now you hold a position of a principal. Suppose your caller calls you in the morning and says, a cup of coffee le aaye. Do you know who you're talking to? I don't care, get one sugar with the coffee. Do you know who you're talking to? Oh, I don't care who you're talking to. Anyway, tell me, this is your principal, Goenka University, Surat. Oh, then he should easily ask after 4 seconds, do you know who you are talking to? No, I don't know, you tell me. Thank God, and he puts the phone down. Now, your position does not work. Your position is only going to have position authority. What will work is a disposition. It means how you are oriented to the person. The second shift that we're looking at, leadership is not expertise, it is flexpertise. What is flexpertise? Expertise that has become flexible enough to connect with people whose expertise, who you are providing your expertise to. So you're an expert in the principle. Now if you talk in jargons, you were trained in Hawaii, somebody was trained in Hawaii. The difference is huge, right? And so you have to download what you learned to this fellow. Now don't download that expertise straight away. You build it from there. A teacher in Kerala is teaching students to draw the national flag. This student does not remember green is at the top or saffron is at the top in an Indian flag. So he's fumbling. The teacher goes there, where are you from? From Kerala. Oh, really? Your mother gives you sambar and rice or a banana leaf, yeah? First what comes? Banana leaf, no? Yeah, what is the color of banana leaf? Green. On top of that rice, what is the color of rice? White. And then some sambar on top. What is the color of sambar? Saffron. Now, can you remember the sequence of colors of the national flag? Yeah. So you brought your expertise down to the reality of the student. This is the art, because expertise is not equal to leadership. Otherwise, Sachin Tendulkar would be India's best captain. Right? You may have greatest of expertise, but you still may not be a leader because you have to draw on the expertise of others to be able to carry the ecosystem forward. Just downloading your capability is not enough. Right? Unfortunately, we select leaders based on expertise, not on their ability to contribute to others. That's the unfortunate part. Finally, leadership is authority. Well, give me authority and I'll give you leadership. I mean, authorization. If look at the Prime Minister's personal secretary and the Defense Minister of India, who's more powerful? Obviously, your answer is obvious, right? Not the one who has more authority, but the one who has more influence, right? So it is fundamentally about influence, but that is not enough. Because your theme is Confluence 25, right? It is confluence, not influence. What is confluence? Influence that moves both ways, this way as well as that. So you have to ask a person, what is it that you want in the school system? Your student is coming, your parent is coming, your teachers are coming. Have you ever asked them, what do they want? Nobody asks students what they want to learn. Nobody asks teachers what they want to teach. But you have to ask. Once you ask, you will get an answer. I'm in Minnesota, it's very cold, and I'm embroidered in this story. And in that cold, I have to get into a hotel room. It's actually a motel, $40 kind of thing in those days, but comfortable enough. I want to get into the bed because it's so cold, like Delhi winter, right? And this lady at the counter says, sir, it will take you 7 minutes. I'm just ticking off some choices that you have to make. Meanwhile, your room will be getting ready. I said, choices to be made now? I only choice I want to pay for it and go there and sleep. He said, no sir, what color of bed sheet would you like? And how does it matter? Anyway, I said pink. And what is that painting that you want, kind of nature or cathedrals and this or this? What kind of newspaper would you want in the morning? What coffee would you prefer? I said, what irrelevant sort of question. I answered the entire lot of questions. Then I entered the room, 7 minutes flat. And I see the room designed exactly as I had bought. This is confluence, which means the customer has a value in this system, has a stake in the system, has a say in the system, how the system has to be designed, how it has to be recalibrated for the usage of those who are your primary stakeholders. On that note, and we hope that confluence succeeds beyond your expectations. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you, Dr. Chatterjee, for touching our minds and hearts with your profound wisdom distilled from your real-life experiences. Your message inspires us to lead with stillness, courage, and clarity. You truly